All right. Hi. Today I wanted to talk about kind of a weird homeschool topic, and that is loneliness as a homeschooler. Like moms who feel lonely or kids who feel lonely, like you've embarked on this journey, you've become a homeschooler, or maybe you've been a homeschooler for a long time, and it fits your philosophy, it's what you want to do, but this piece might not be working. And I recently read a really interesting thread on a Facebook group where all these moms were talking about feeling lonely. And I realized that if you aren't in that place right now, or maybe never were, that it's kind of one of those issues that people don't really think about as being kind of an important topic, because our relationships with people, connecting with people, is so foundational to who we are, right? And so, anyway, I just wanted to talk about that today as a part of this series, and share some ideas on how to kind of combat that, like some action steps we can take to make friends, things like that. So, anyway, if you've never struggled with loneliness, I'm very happy for you. But what I have found is that oftentimes, if parents have really good social skills, that it might be kind of one of those things where they don't even really know how to teach it to their kids. Their kids could be lonely, don't have any friends, but the mom doesn't have that problem at all. So it's kind of one of these things. We're often not that good at teaching things that we are good at. So anyway, when we talk about making friends, it's especially in the homeschool world, especially if you're new in the homeschool world and maybe you don't have a lot of connections there yet. What I like to kind of reflect on is how much of our culture actually centers its socializing around schools, right? If you have a child in school and they might have class parties, they might get invited to birthday parties, they might see people at sports games or even be on the same team as somebody in their class. Moms can join the parent teacher association. Um, they might ride the bus with other kids. The list goes on and on. There's all kinds of opportunities to get to know other kids at school. Now, I'm not saying these are all quality opportunities, or that there aren't some negatives that come with all this time that they're spending with people, but the time factor can't be denied. They're in classes with other students for hours a day for like 9 months of the school year. So when people start to homeschool, though, I feel like this is an area that often catches people by surprise. And the reason it catches people by surprise is they're not planning their socializing the way they are planning their curriculum, right? Like when people start homeschooling, they get this beautiful homeschool plan, they get out a calendar, they map out their week, and their day might look something like get up in the morning, have breakfast, get dressed, do a few chores, then get started on the schoolwork. And after a few hours, maybe not even that long, their kids are done with schoolwork and they've got the rest of the day, right? Like when their kids were in school, they didn't get home till 3 or 4 in the afternoon. But now they have kids all day, and their child wants something to do. They want to be with people. Okay, so this isn't a problem. This is normal life. But um, what I've observed is how this kind of can affect people mentally a little bit, right? Because like a week of that, and it's like, okay, we need to be around people. I need some adult conversation. They need to see some kids. Like a few weeks of that start to go by, and it can kind of get in your head, and you might feel isolated. You might start looking at other people and asking yourself the question, like, why can't I figure this out? Why can't I figure out how to make friends for my kid, for me? And my thing is, I don't want people to have this struggle, because I had terrible social skills growing up. I couldn't figure the people thing out. And now I've gained a lot of insight. And so I don't really like to see other people have to struggle through this because it's not that hard. Now, here's the thing. If you go on Facebook groups and you post like, how do I meet other homeschoolers? They're going to say things like, go to the park or go to homeschool days at the local museum, or maybe they'll say join a co-op. We meet friends through sports. There's going to be a long list of just popcorn answers, right? And none of them are bad. Those are actually all valid places to meet other people that may also be homeschooling. But here's the problem, right? The problem is if you go to the park one day and you go to a co-op, you know, maybe on Mondays for an hour, and then you go, you see some homeschoolers here and there at some museums or at, maybe they're on the sports team, maybe you even see them at church, but it's really just like limited interactions. It is very difficult to build relationships on those kind of popcorn interactions, right? You might see them here and there, but you don't see them all the time. I mean, this is one thing that school does offer. And I'm not saying send your kids to school, but I'm just saying, like, look at what school is doing. It is putting all these kids together. They see each other for hours a day, and they're able to build friendships or talk to people, at least gives them a chance to do that. So how can we take what that is, that time factor, and kind of like translate that over into the homeschool world where we're spending a lot of our day at home, right, with our family? That's what we wanted to do. That's why we homeschool. So first, it's important to realize, just if you are great at socializing and making friends, it's really important to realize that like everybody around you isn't necessarily in that same boat. So if making friends is easy for you and your kids, it's really great to kind of take that on as being the person that reaches out when you see somebody that's struggling a little bit, right? Just take that on as your mission to like help other people, connect to other people, because not everybody has figured it out yet. Now, recently I came across a blog, and they were talking about, they were labeling their solution crisscrossing. And I was like, okay, I have no words for the solution. My solution was the same as theirs, but I didn't have a word for it. So they call it crisscrossing. And here's what crisscrossing is, right? Crisscrossing is when you structure your life so that you are connecting with the same people multiple times in a week, right? This requires actually some planning. We're great at planning our curriculum. Maybe we're great at planning, mapping out our week. Maybe we even like go to a co-op or whatever. But really, the whole idea of building friendships requires more touch points. That's what I'm going to call it. Like, you see this person at co-op, that's a touch point. Maybe that same person is also on your son's soccer team. That's a touch point because I see him another time during the week. And then if you see that other person, that person again, maybe at church or something like that, that's another touch point, right? When we have multiple touch points with the same people, right, our lives are crisscrossing. So if your family or your child or you personally are struggling to make connections, make friendships, then it's time to get a little bit intentional about adding more touch points. Now, here's how I saw this play out in our homeschool group, because I saw this pattern happening over and over and over again. I was a director of a homeschool group for 6 years, and I saw that sometimes new families would come into our group and they would like have instant friends. I was like, oh, wait, they're doing birthday parties together. They're doing life together. They were like they had been lifelong friends with these people that they just had met recently. And I thought, okay, well, that's awesome, right? Very interesting, awesome. And then there would be other families that came in, and, maybe the mom would like kind of sit off by themselves. They didn't really talk to people. Their kids kind of, maybe they only came for one class. But like they never plugged in co-op would be 15 weeks in out of 30 weeks and they didn't have any friends. My mom didn't really have any friends, but this was like a pattern. Like there would be people that joined every year in both camps, the like friend people and the no friend people. And it was like, why is this happening? Well, what I started to realize for our homeschool group is we had some people that would join and they would say, we want to join for social reasons, right? And so they would join to take the fun classes. And that might be like one class in the afternoon, maybe two. Well, the rest of the kids had come for the whole program, and maybe they were there for 4 or 5 classes a day. They were sitting in a class with the same kids for 4 or 5 hours, right? Like they were there sitting next to these same kids. They were eating lunch together, right? They were building relationships. They were like helping each other solve their homework problems, working on projects together. They were doing things. And in the meantime, they were becoming friends. But when people came just for the one activity that was their favorite and fit their specific need, they seem to struggle to connect. So what I think I'm seeing is compartmentalized thinking. Some people go into their education experience. Maybe you've seen this before. Even my kids in school, I've seen this. Some kids, they come to school and they don't actually make very many friends because all of their activities are away from school. Maybe they're part of a club baseball team. It's the best one in the area and they travel and it's really awesome, right? But nobody else in the school is on the club team, right? So they're at school all day, changing classes, and then they go off and they're with these kids on this club baseball team. Well, they're not in the same group either. And then maybe they go to church with some totally different people. And so I've seen kids who really struggled in school the exact same way I'm talking about homeschoolers, because their touch points with people, their connecting points aren't happening, right? They have these compartmentalized things. Sports are here, school is here, music lessons are here, church is here. And maybe their life is so packed. I've seen this, you probably have too. Life is so packed that when somebody says like, hey, do you want to come to my birthday party? Or, hey, we're going to the movies this weekend. They actually don't have any room in their schedule, right? So you've got the overscheduled people, you've got the compartmentalized people, right? But if we're working on friendships and relationships, I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those other two options, but if we're specifically working on friendships and relationships, we have to be deliberate about creating more touch points with people. So how do we do that? How do we create these touch points with people? Well, first of all, you have to know like what you're looking for, right? If you find a group of people that have the same values as you. Maybe you find a co-op. We'll just start with that example. You find a co-op of people that have the same values as you. And maybe you don't love every class they're offering, but you decide, hey, I'm going to come. My kid's going to take the classes just so that they can meet friends, right? Maybe they find a kid or two that they really enjoy. And so you start talking to that mom and you find out like, oh, this daughter, this girl here, she takes dance lessons and my daughter really likes her daughter. So, or maybe the son plays soccer on this other team, right? And so you then start signing your kids up, not for everything, because that's crazy. But if it's an activity your child would enjoy, sign them up on a team with somebody from that co-op that they like, or sign them up for activities where they're going to be in the same space together. Okay, like this can sound complicated, and it can get complicated if you have a lot of kids, but we're just talking about creating more touch points with people during the week. Now, creating more touch points isn't going to fix everything, right? Because we've all met people who we're around them and maybe we're around them a lot. And we're like, yeah, they're just like, they don't know how to talk to people. Maybe they just kind of go off by themselves. They don't want to talk to people, right? Like that's totally a separate thing. Having poor social skills is something that a lot of people struggle with. And struggling with social skills it's not even actually a problem, because when somebody wants to learn social skills, you can learn social skills like math. That's what I always say. I learned social skills like math because I had none. And actually, if you have a child that struggles with social skills, I have a free ebook. You can download it. It's in the resources that go with this video. Um, it's called Making Friends Can Be Easy. And there's just really simple things you can practice with your kids to make it more comfortable talking to people they don't know, questions they can learn, really easy prompts to like actually practice having conversation. Um, there's there's things about social skills that not everybody observes, and a lot of those tips are in that little, it's a short ebook, maybe 10-15 pages. Anyway, so I'm not saying touch points fixes everything, but if you're really struggling to make friends, it's an easy area to really look at, your schedule and say, okay, what can I do for my child, for myself, so that I'm connecting more often with people that I want my kids to be friends with, right? This is just really practical, kind of almost like a math thing. So, and here's the thing. I don't want you to like overthink this and really start to stress out about it. That's not what I'm talking about either. You as a parent know your kid the best, right? Like if too many touch points in the week is like stressful because they're kind of introverted or whatever, I'm not saying like stress everybody out. You as a parent know your child the best. You're the expert, right? And I always want to defer to that because every kid is different, and as parents, we're all different too. But this is just an idea that has worked for me. It has worked for my kids. It's certainly changed our lives to really kind of become intentional about creating those connections with other people whenever we saw that as a struggle point. And I want to encourage you, like, I mean, this school year, if that's an area that you want to improve on for your family, definitely give it a shot. Find people that you enjoy spending time with, and then, see what happens. Have conversations and like make an up, take the opportunity to really plug in with them multiple times a week and see where those relationships go. All right. I hope you have a great week.